everyone, and welcome to another enlightening episode of Myths and Arts podcast. I'm Hetvi Shah, your host, and today we have the privilege of discussing an essential topic in women's health, which is about menses. Menstrual health is a topic that does not get the attention it deserves, and we are here to change that with our special guest today, Dr. Seema Pandey, a highly esteemed infertility specialist, gynecologist, and reproductive endocrinologist with 27 years of experience in this field. Dr. Seema practices at Seema Hospital and Eva Fertility Clinic and IVF Center in Azamgarh. She also hosts her own talk show called Dr. Seema Talk Show, where she addresses the common issues faced by women. So we are excited to delve into the intricacies of menstrual health and dispel some common myths and misconceptions surrounding this vital aspect of women's well-being. So Dr. Seema, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Hetvi, for kind introduction, and I'm glad to be here.
So to start off, could you share a bit about your medical journey and what inspired you to specialize in infertility and reproductive endocrinology?
So, Hetvi, whenever I introduce myself, I call myself a reproductive medicine specialist by profession and a poet by heart. And this question is very interesting. I don't remember, probably my grandfather inculcated this belief that I'm going to be a doctor when I don't remember since when. Whatever time I remember, I always wanted to be a doctor. Later on in my family, multiple people, my close first degree relatives, they were suffering from infertility, and looking them running from pillar to post and not getting proper kind of treatment. They were just round and round doing the same thing for years. Ultimately, they lost their opportunity to get a child, though it is predestined if we believe in God. But the kind of journey they had, that made me think that it could have been done better. And that was the inspiration that I became a doctor. So I did my undergraduation from LLRM Medical College, Meerut. Later on, I did my post-graduation in obstetrics and gynae, and that is very interesting. I never wanted to be a gynecologist per se. I always wanted to be a neurosurgeon or neurophysician. But my husband, at that time, I was engaged, and he insisted that I should opt for gynae because females, especially in northern India, they are looked upon as a lady doctor. That means gynecologist. So later on, I would have regretted if I did not choose this branch. And that was the reason I chose gynae. And as I told you, ultimately, I fell in love with this subject called reproductive medicine. I'll just tell in brief because this is a new terminology for people. People recognize us as a gynecologist who's dealing with infertility. But reproductive medicine is the subspecialty like neurosurgery, cardiosurgery, cardiac medicine, and all those things. And it particularly deals with your menstrual problems, your hormonal problems, and infertility is an integral part of it. And then I went for fellowships. I did almost every fellowship available related to reproductive health. And here I am serving. My another clinic is in Lucknow, which I recently started after 25 years of service in this place.
So can you tell us what exactly defines irregular menses and how do menstrual irregularities impact long-term reproductive outcomes?
Great. So I'll divide the question in two parts. First of all, it is very interesting and very important to know what is normal. Then only you will understand what is abnormal. So, for a girl who is more than 18 years of age, till 45 years, 42 years, after in her early 40s, you can say, if you are getting your periods within 21 to 35 days, fine, whether it is every month 21-22 days or 34-35 days or 28 to 30 days, all are normal. This is a myth that your dates or your period should come on that particular day only. That only 3% of people get. Rest of us, we get our periods if we are getting within a week from your date this side or that side, and if it lasts somewhere within 3 to 7 days, it's totally fine. The blood flow which has to take place during that menstruation is 35 ml to 70 ml. Suppose this is my perfume bottle, 35 थोड़ा इससे ज्यादा होगा, और this is, so it could come like fast, and all of such few people get. First day this is, there is spotting, second day they have good flow, they change 2 or 3 pad, third day it starts decreasing, and by fourth day it is done. That is absolutely normal period. Few people, they get first day good flow and then decreasing trend. If you are getting, you have to change 3 4 5 pads every day for 5 to 6 days, that is not normal. That is abnormally heavy bleeding. Or if you have started your menses and you don't require a pad, or you are just while going to urination or defecation you are getting those spottings, that is also abnormal. If you are getting your period beyond 35 days, 40 days, 45 days, 2 months, 3 months, or sometimes only on medication, that is abnormal. If you are getting your periods 15 days, 17 days, 20, every 15, 17, 20 days, that is also abnormal. So these are the definition of normal and abnormal. Remember, if you have missed your period for more than a week than expected date of your period, and if it had never happened, that is abnormal. So you should look out for next period. If it is repeating the same pattern, you have to see a gynecologist. If your period came within 15 days of your previous cycle, then again it is not normal. You have to watch the next period. Sometimes you are having fever, examination stress, some family stress, that also precipitates. But anybody not getting period for 3 months is absolutely abnormal. Now I will come to the youngsters. If your age is less than 18 years and your period duration length is 21 to 45 days, that is normal. If you are getting 45 days means 1.5 months, each every 1.5 months if you are getting your period, that is also normal. If you are getting 21 days, that is also normal. You should watch out for this period which is taking 1.5 months to take place for next 3 years post menses, and then you should see a doctor if there is some problem earlier too. And any girl of age 15 who has started developing her breast, her pubic and all hair sexual characteristics, but she is not started her period, which is called menarche. For the first time when you get your period, it is called menarche. If you have not attained your menarche till the age of 15 years or 3 years post your breast development, that is also abnormal. Now coming to the part, how does it impact your reproductive journey? So suppose somebody is getting frequent periods. If she is a teenager, we have to watch her and we just have to do symptomatic treatment because her body is not fully developed. It takes around 8 years for menses to get settled, and by the end of 3 years, majority of people, they set a pattern how their future menses are going to be. So suppose somebody is a girl teenager who is getting period every 15 days. First is, she is, nowadays we are getting periods very early, so she's going to lose lot of blood, so we have to manage that, but we don't have to make a diagnosis here only because this is immature hypothalamus pituitary ovarian axis. This is an axis which works and handles and controls your menses. Let it get matured. And meanwhile, don't let this girl lose her blood. But a lady who is 22 years, who is sexually active, and she started getting periods early, frequent periods every 15 days, 10 days, 20 days, this implies either she is having infection somewhere in her genital tract or she is having hormonal imbalance. Both of these conditions are not good. Suppose she is having infection, later on this infection can ascend in your genital tract and that can give to, this is my uterus model, uterus, two fallopian tubes and ovaries. Strategically, this is vagina. Vagina in front, there is your urinary bladder, urine ka rasta. Behind is your anus, defecation ka rasta. Both of these sites are rich source of infection for this uterus, and infection travels through this route. It goes like this. Once it reaches to the tube, if you didn't take care of your infection, it will start ascending. It will affect your endometrial lining, which sheds every month so that you get your periods and then regenerates. So if there is infection, this power of regeneration is lost. So this will give you scanty periods later on, or this lining will not be able to get ready for catering or for nourishing a child, future child or an embryo. If this infection reaches to the tube, it blocks the tubes and you become subfertile. So infection leads to subfertility because of blocked fallopian tubes or affecting endometrial lining. If you are having hormonal imbalance, say thyroid, or there are many conditions like polycystic ovarian disease, endometriosis, hyperprolactinemia. If it is hormonal and you are getting frequent periods, sometimes your this lining is gets thickened, or if you don't take care of those hormones, this gives you irregular bleeding. Along with, if this hormonal imbalance is not treated, it becomes very serious, and that can also give you an ovulatory infertility. So that is one thing. If your periods, suppose you are not getting it on time, as I told you, once you become 18 plus, your menses should not go beyond 35 days. Suppose you are getting your periods every 45 days, 50 days, sometimes 2 months, that implies the commonest conditions are hypothyroidism and polycystic ovarian disease or syndrome, which is every fourth or fifth girl is suffering from this era of 24 into 7 lifestyle, whether she is underweight or overweight. Though we say that 80% of PCOD and hypothyroid people are overweight or obese, but it is equally prevalent among thin as well as overweight and obese girls. Fine. So she could be having either thyroid problem or PCOD. In northern India, where I come from, this is Trans Ganges plain, which starts from Haridwar till Calcutta, this area which is along the Ganges. This soil is deficient in iodine. So our thyroid gland is not able to produce enough thyroid hormone, so we become hypothyroid. And thyroid is a master hormone to take care. It affects starting from your hair to your nail to your heart to your reproduction, everything. So this girl might face subfertility, silent miscarriages, causes of which are not known. And if she is PCOD, it is not about your menses only, it affects every part of your body. It makes you 7 to 10 times more prone for diabetes mellitus if you have a family history. Otherwise, 3 to 6 times. It makes you prone for heart disease, blood pressure, thyroid, hyperprolactinemia, and especially once you become menopausal. So imagine how important it is to know about your periods. If you understand these things, if you've started taking care of, and 80% of the diseases we are talking about, these are because of our faulty lifestyle choices. So if this girl is stopped here, she is told properly that no darling, this should be the way
to go ahead. She'll be understanding it and she can take care of her own life because 50% of control of these diseases are in your hand. It is not medicine at all. Fine. Third, if painful menses, what were we told when we were young by our dadis and nannies? Once you get married, means once you get sexually active or you get a child, this will go away. And this is very normal. People get periods pain. No, period pain is not normal. It could be without any disease, just like migraine, which goes away with time, but majority of these people, they are suffering from a condition called endometriosis. Endometriosis is a condition. Endometrium is the name of this uterine lining. Fine. And this lining has special feature of getting shed off every month, and that's how we get our periods. Suppose in endometriosis patient, this lining is present in the uterine wall, tube, ovaries, between your gut, in your lungs, brain sometime. So whenever there is bleeding from here, the signal will go to all the places where this lining is present, and that will start getting shed off and there will be bleeding. Suppose this girl, she is having this endometrial lining in her uterine wall. There is no way for this blood to come out. So this will get start here. This will make this uterine cavity irregular in shape. And uterus in general does not accept anything inside except for a full normal baby. Even if it is miscarried, people start getting pain. So uterus is trying to kick it off, and that's why you get the pain. And to stop the bleeding, these linings, they get shed off, they just get like this. If your uterine cavity is abnormal, this thing will not take place. These linings will not come together, so bleeding will not stop. You'll get lot of bleeding. And lot of chemicals like prostaglandin and other chemicals, they keep getting released by this bad blood. Basically, it is a bad blood. Menstrual blood, first it will be thin, then it will be thick. If it is in ovaries, it will make a cyst. So all those chemical reactions which is taking place inside that blood, that gives rise to lot of pain. So painful period is not normal. Then very important condition, I was mentioning that some people, they do not get periods, they just get spotting once they go to toilet, or if they get their period, they don't require a pad. That is scanty flow. Scanty flow, the commonest reason is this girl is not ovulating. Fine. So there is some hormonal problem. If you have ruled out, second commonest thing is infection, especially long-term infection like tuberculosis, chlamydia, gonorrhea. All these infections, especially tuberculosis, if it affects your endometrial lining, it just kills it, and that's why its regenerative capacity is lost, so you are not getting adequate menses. And people who have recurrent miscarriages and they are undergoing that process called DNC or curettage or surgical abortion, their endometrial lining gets damaged, and that also gives rise to this scanty flow. Heavy flow, you will get when your endometrial lining is thick, when you have infection, when you have adenomyosis, when you have endometriosis. So all these conditions, extra, very scanty, prolonged, very early, everything has to be understood.
Yes, thank you for explaining that. And I think it is crucial to understand the underlying causes early, as
Exactly.
possible. Yes. So moving forward, what are the current best practices for managing menstrual pain, especially for patients who do not respond to standard therapy or painkillers?
So I love this question because this is a day-to-day dilemma, especially for people dealing with endometriosis and adenomyosis. And most of the time during period days, they are lifeless. They are not able to function. They are not even able to perform their day-to-day activities like bathing and taking food and everything. So you have to understand two things. There is limitation for any painkiller to take, be it meftalaspase antispasmodic or something related to tramadol, crocin paracetamol group, or some opioids. These are the things which we prescribe normally. You have to understand. I'll tell you a story. I was told when I was a postgraduate that Raja of Ramnagar, I'm not understating the pain they are undergoing. What I am trying to tell what endurance is. So Raja of Ramnagar, he was suffering from, Ramnagar is a state near Varanasi. He was suffering from appendicitis and he had to undergo appendectomy. And he refused to take any kind of anesthesia, and his appendectomy operation was performed those days. It was not laparoscopic days, it was proper cut and removal, fine. And the whole procedure went smoothly and he kept chanting, fine, whatever meditation he was doing. So this pain is like that. More you give importance to it, some people are pain sensitive, some people the same amount of pain gives lot of discomfort to some, and it gives hardly any symptoms like us, like me. I am very my threshold for pain is quite high. So apart from painkillers, these people, they can have lot of other ways to deal with their pain. For example, when we were young, our mom used to give us hot water bottle and we used to keep it here. You can go for hot water bath or hot water bottle. You can take some soothing music, something which you like doing, just to get your attention away from pain. This is for milder pain and pain which can be manageable by these things. Then comes the role of psychotherapy and behavioral therapy, where you are just made accustomed to all these things, how to inculcate in your day-to-day life by doing those particular set of exercises, meditation and exercises, yogas and everything. Fine. Suppose you did everything and this pain is not going. Then comes the role of denervation therapy. Denervation therapy is that pain pathway is through our nerves. So we inject some medicine on those nerve pathway which is coming from that area. Endometriosis is a disease of uterus tube and your ovaries. From there to brain, we just block it, right? And then you have to remember, people suffering from pain is because of muscular spasm as a result of chemicals being released in your body. So what we are teaching basically that this spasm should go away. Hot water bottle and hot bath helps in that. Acupressure, acupuncture, yoga, core exercises, core building, any exercise, be it Pilates, be it yoga, be it physical, anything. That, and plus there are trigger points. Suppose all of these not working, so we identify those trigger points where there is maximum spasm and we inject that denervating injection there, so that their sensation of pain is not gone up along with other medication. But let me tell you, all these things should be practiced under some specialist. You can do yoga, acupressure, all those things on your own, but psychotherapy, physiotherapy, and especially these denervation and trigger point relaxation, these things are done in specialized pain clinics. So these are, and apart from that, you have to identify the cause, you have to treat the disease. If it is endometriosis, you can put this, suppose a girl who is having menstrual pain every month, you have to put her on OC pills. Family planning pills we get, no, that is the easiest way to get rid of.
and that takes care of. If after 3 months she is not getting relieved, then you have to make a proper diagnosis, and there are advanced medications for endometriosis, or if she needs surgery, we have to decide. So diagnosis should not be left behind. Along with this symptomatic pain management, we have to focus on identifying the cause and relieve it. Unfortunately, there is no permanent cure for endometriosis because it is menstrual blood. So till you will menstruate, it will come. If you want a child, the treatment I am going to give you for endometriosis will not let you have a child. And if you are ovulating and trying for a child, this pain will not go.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. Now, what are the most effective strategies for educating patients about the menstrual health, particularly in diverse and undeserved populations?
So if I tell you the gist of this, first of all, as a society, we will have to identify and recognize that menstruation is an integral part of our womanhood, and you have to respect it, you have to understand it, and don't shy away. So each and every family has to understand from where will it come. As a child, when she is in the school, if you cannot do it privately, make it as a part of curriculum. Menstrual hygiene can be easily kept as an academic curriculum for these girls. You can also, if you cannot include it in your curriculum, you can bring people, you can organize workshops for these girls where they are taught how to take care of their menses, how to maintain a menstrual calendar, when is normal, when is abnormal, when to tell your mom, when to see your gynecologist. All these things has to be taught from that age when the perception is high and she wants to know. She's curious because she's getting menstruation. Her mom is not talking about. Thankfully, this generation, our generation, and next to ours, they are talking to their daughters. But even men should understand it. Got it? That fear, oh, somebody will see me in that stain, that takes away the whole night sleep for a teenager because she doesn't know how to deal with it. That's why curriculum wise, that would be the best. Organizing workshop, online, offline, social media, people like you, organizing these talk shows. I want to say people in India have become real tech savvy. My patients, I am practicing 4 days a week in this extreme village. Earlier, I was practicing 7 days a week. My patients, they come. How did I start doing it? One of my patients said, the way you explain things, nobody ever did to me. And she had been to many countries and in India. So during lockdown, I started this show. And then people come to me, ma'am, बहुत दिनों से कोई नया वीडियो नहीं आया. So people are watching out there. Just give them right kind of content. They should not rely on those influencers who are not knowing exactly what we are talking. So produce right kind of content, just release it through all the online, offline, whatever platform you are getting. If we start taking action at all the level from all the sides, then only it can become a natural thing as it is.
Yes, rightly said. Education through right to media is also important.
This is very important because everything, if you want to know something, you Google it. If you want to learn something, you go on YouTube. So all these platforms, they should be having right content. The problem is people who are producing right kind of content, they don't have those kind of special media and all those, what do you call it, frills and creams. So people get attracted with that sensational headlines and all those things, no? And unfortunately, we are not able to create all those things.
Yes, rightly said. Now, moving on, what unique consideration should healthcare providers keep in mind when addressing menstrual health in adults and patients?
So that is very important. I keep going to these schools where these youngsters are there. The first funda is you have to be very simple. So that and interesting, because their attention span is very, very small. So if you are just going round the bush, they will not understand it. You have to be very simple. You have to be, it has to be interesting. It has to correlate with them. As I told you, this stain that gives them lot of pain, peer group pressure, they become like people start making fun of them. So you can start from there. How can you prevent it? How this stain will not happen? And if it does, it should not bother you. The day she understands that, our aim will be totally fulfilled. And painful periods, if she is menstruating, game teacher is not letting her play games. She is not being included in any special activity if she is having menstrual pain. Up till date, absence, the commonest cause of absence from school among girls in our Asian countries is menstruation. Do you know that? So they have to be told that this is not something to be worried about, to be like very secretive about, and this is not going to make you a less smart girl or less smart leader. You still going to, in fact, they can be encouraged, these girls who are leaders. Every school, every class has someone people look upon. So these girls, they should be given importance, they should be told, and if somebody is doing that, rest of them they follow. So talk, smell, rashes, how to look good, how to be like, be comfortable, what kind of pads to be used, and all these things gradually you introduce, and then you come to what will happen if you don't take care. If you start with that, she doesn't bother about whether she is getting periods every month. What she is bothered about, will this period stop me from going out, from playing, from making friends? And that is the area we have to touch upon first. And gradually, if you don't take care, these are the consequences. That is the way to go about it.
Yes, considering their age, you have to see their mindset and talk about it.
Information is not good for them, because they start getting confused and then they'll talk among each other, and then everything will go back. Like, for example, these pimples. So these, you have to just tell that this is your age and you give the solution. Just don't stop there that this is because of your age. They don't bother about why is it there, what is the solution, and that should be there.
Yes. Now, lastly, how should healthcare professionals approach menstrual health in patients with chronic conditions like PCOS, endometriosis, and thyroid disorders?
Yeah, this is very important question again, Hetvi. So most important factor is the age group. Which age group are we dealing with? Are these teenagers or women of reproductive age group, or they are beyond 40? So if they are teenagers and you are suspecting they are going to have, they are having menstrual pain, they could be end up in having endometriosis. If they are having prolonged or overdue periods, they could be getting hypothyroid or PCOD. So these girls, they have to be dealt differently. So these people, you don't have to label them that you have become PCOS, you have become hypothyroid, you have become this. You just have to test few basic things: thyroid, hemoglobin, prolactin. If it's all normal, just put on some kind of pills I have told you, doctors prescribe for few months, very limited time, because this is their growing period. And if these girls are under that growth spurt, hormonal treatment sometimes affects them negatively. So take your doctor's advice before starting something. If they are suffering from thyroid supplementation has to be given, must be given, because thyroid will just hamper everything. So that is there. If they are between 18 to 40 years of age, PCOD, they have to get diagnosed the severity of the disease, what is their primary aim, whether immediate childbearing in the picture. So temporary control of the hormones followed by their treatment for ovulation. If they are obese, they are getting lot of hair, or their menses are only irregular, childbearing is not that important at this time. So we give medications to take care of unwanted hair. We talk about lifestyle modifications. We give them medications if they are not able to lose it on your own, and lot of mental support. The most important thing for any chronic condition, we are forgetting that medicine is not the cure. Please treat this person as a human being. And it is not just affecting her menses, it is affecting her whole life in this society where she is performing. That performance is getting affected. For example, endometriosis and PCOD patients, they are prone for anxiety and depression. So if your doctor is just prescribing you medicines and not talking about it, then it is not good. If you don't have time as a doctor, you just refer her to or keep a counselor in your clinic and let them talk to them. And that is the way to go about every chronic condition. We have to think about mental and emotional well-being. That is first and foremost. And half of the problem you will realize once you start talking. If you have given that patient hearing, half of their problems just goes away then and there only. So that is very important. Age is first. How long it has been since she started her period, or is she near her menopause? Suppose somebody is about to get menopause and she has been diagnosed earlier as PCOD. Now this lady, estrogen hormone is a protecting thing for all the women. Fine. Once this estrogen we lose after menopause, we are equally prone for heart disease, we are prone for blood pressure, brain hemorrhage, stroke, everything. On top of that, if you are suffering from PCOD, these conditions you are likely to get more frequently than your friend who is not been suffering from. So it should be taken care of. Now they don't require children, but their sugars, their blood pressure, their weight, their cholesterol, all these things should be looked at or at least once a year. So that is the way to go about, and then diagnose it, then give the treatment as I told you as per their requirement. And long-term goal is to make and keep them healthy, happy, and life.
Yes, a multidisciplinary approach is key, I think. Dr. Seema, it has been an enlightening discussion today as I conclude this. Your expertise and insights into menstrual health are truly incredible. And I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot from this conversation. And also, we are honored to have you as a guest and that we could address this concerning issue affecting almost half of the population in women. So, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Hetvi, for making me a part of this podcast. Thank you, MedSynapse. And I hope to continue this journey with you in future if it benefits the masses.
Yes, definitely. We would love to have more discussions with you. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And remember, if you're a healthcare professional who is eager to delve deeper into medical topics or have questions, don't hesitate to join us on MedSynapse platform. MedSynapse platform is not just a resource. It's a dynamic space where you can connect with your medical peers, participate in meaningful discussions, and contribute to the ongoing evolution of healthcare. So until next time, stay informed and take care of your health.